Hello,
Yeah.
hello. How you doing?
Good. We were just talking about you. We heard that the two of you met up last week, so that's fun.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a few conversation design folks hosted at the beautiful Salesforce Park. So appreciate Greg for having us there.
It's great to see you.
Yeah. And is Salesforce Park then the one where we were at too?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Now everybody knows I just take everyone to the same place. So
yeah, I don't feel special anymore, Greg.
Well, we'll have to go to the top the next time people visit.
Yeah, we'll
so
do. I'll be over soon.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. This was very great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll be in touch. Braden, the stage is all yours. Thank you for being here. You got about 25 minutes. I'll hop on at one point. We'll do some Q&A.
Let's do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it would not be a Braden at CDI Festival presentation without me being, oh, you know what? I've got to get my system preferences here. One sec.
Everybody's had that Chrome issue. There's like some update. You're like the fourth person.
Okay, one sec here. Okay, I will be back in 30 seconds.
30 seconds. So what can we do in 30 seconds? Well, we can do a countdown for 30 seconds. We can do a little promo in 30 seconds, but we've already done that. So maybe I should just talk you to whatever we have next. So we have Braden, then we're going to do a little break. And then Jason's been on for a bit. Let's see. Oh, wait, yeah.
Jason, finally! Yeah. Oh! Yeah. He's back. Hey, Braden.
Yeah. All righty.
Cool.
Jason, how you doing?
And Jason's gone because you're working. Haha, sorry, Jason. So after Braden's talk, we have a little break. Then we have Jason, who's going to get someone a job in conversational AI. Then we have Faylene talking about standards. Then we have Helena. Then we have a game show where you can win prizes, Braden. You want to be part of that. And now we're going to go into the last stretch with Zendesk, with Intuit, with Highmark Health, with Headspace, with AT&T Intuit. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be fun. All right, so enjoy. I'll add your slides to the stream right now, and if you hit present, then we're all good to go. Enjoy, everybody.
Okay. All righty, I'm going to assume we are good to go because I just have StreamYard open. So hi, everyone. So I'm Braden Reams, CEO of Voiceflow. We're going to be talking about the CXD maturity model, and more specifically, more about team structure and workflow. And so I know we've got about we had 20 minutes a few minutes ago. And so this is a brand new presentation. So I'm going to try to blow through as much content as I can. If I get stopped early, it's okay. We can send the slides out or something. So let's dive in. First, a little intro to myself. I'm Braden, co-founded Voiceflow a little over 3 years ago now. And we help teams be able to design, prototype, and collaborate on conversational interfaces. First off, if there are any Voiceflow designers here, say hi in the chat. I know we've got some Flowsters, as we call ourselves, some Voiceflow team members in the chat. So make sure to say hi. So one of the issues with our space is there are no standards. It's a pretty big issue. This comes all the way from the tooling layer. So for example, at one company, a triangle to them is going to be different than a triangle to another company. When you look at their designs, their workflows are different. Even, the titles for their jobs are quite different as well. There really are no standards in this space, and it's a pretty big issue. And thank you for CDI for pushing these standards forward. So we've learned a lot about CXD over the past couple of years with over 100,000 different designers and teams now using Voiceflow to design their interfaces. And one question we always get are, what are the best teams doing, right? So everyone's always curious about, well, what is sort of the industry standard for this particular practice? And so as we've gotten this question over the past couple of years, we developed a model internally to actually segment customers by where they are and where they want to be in sort of their workflow and their team structure. And so that is the conversation design maturity model that we're going to be going over today. But first, we are going to look at how CXD teams got to where they are today. So a quick little history lesson, because folks might be like, why does everyone look this way when we all want to be this way? There's actually a pretty good reason for it. So CXD at its core is about optimizing experiences when dealing with large numbers. The way we like to talk about this is, conversation design is like the UX of automated conversations. It's the UX of automation. Where conversation design really kicks in. So when you have a ton of volume, whether it's through your IVR system, it's through your web chat, it's through your mobile app, whatever it might be, you're to get a lot of volume from folks coming in, and even small increments from improving the experience by improved containment. It might increase NPS scores, whatever it might be. You're trying to look for small little gains from improving the design itself, which small gains over large numbers means big savings. So for many orgs, CXD started in the call center. This is true across pretty large number of customers that we work with. And over the past decade, many other business lines outside of just the call center have now started to adopt conversational AI. Now, this wasn't a unified push, though. What you actually see is you may have the product team, which adopted an SMS vendor. It started to build its own bot. You may have the call center, of course, who is an SMS vendor, an IVR vendor. The support team who's got a web chat. Sales who's got their web chat as well. And over time, you actually start to see these business lines are adopting conversational AI independently. So they're going to have their own technology stacks, their own team, their own process, workflow. And so you've got basically 4 different conversational AI teams within the company. Now, with the rise of personal assistants and really just with the improvement of technology and the validation of ROI in conversational AI, you now have brands starting to think, okay, well, what if we can actually offer a unified and personalized customer experience at scale with our own assistant, right? So being able to have these 4 channels not just act independently, and they might be independent assistants, but at least have knowledge of each other, being able to share context and offer a unified experience across our whole brand. And so this is what many brands are now starting to think about: is how do we go past just FAQ? How do we carry context between channels and offer a unified brand experience? And also, even though Voiceflow is sort of a design company at its core, do know that these slides were not approved by design. So if you're looking at this and it looks a little ugly, that's because it's me. Cool. Last few slides on context here. So we see 2 distinct categories of assistants. So one is the automation of customer support. Most often you're going to see this with IVR, chatbot, web, and mobile app. These assistants are triaging customers as they come through, and the goal is to at a certain point hand off to a human, or if possible you can fully automate the conversation, but more often than not it's about triaging as much of the support as possible, so that when we do pass off to an agent, the agent has as much context as humanly possible, which helps you get to the resolution faster. So that is sort of the automation of customer support assistant. This is the big category today, and now you're starting to see sort of fully automated assistants, digital products, devices, assistants, where it's going to be in-car assistants, digital, sort of automated drive-throughs, and experiences where the goal is to get to full automation, right? We're actually trying to, as much as possible, not connect you with the human. And so over time, I think as the technology gets better, you're going to see more and more assistants move towards this sort of full automation use case. But today, the bulk of it certainly on that automation and sort of that triage before customer support. Just some good examples here that are all public: the U.S. Bank Smart Assistant, and of course the McDonald's drive-through as well, which I'm sure folks are familiar with. Cool. So as conversational assistants became seen as a core digital channel alongside web and mobile, brands start to realize they need to iterate quickly on this, right? And so when we think about iteration speed, you can actually hack your way to creating a great assistant experience. But the problem is if you don't have repeatable technology, talent, and process, sort of your whole workflow, you're not going to be able to iterate. So you might be able to create an assistant experience once, sort of brute force your way through, whether it's hiring an agency to build it, or just quickly pulling in some teams for a special project, building it, and then everyone goes back to their respective teams after. You can brute force your way to a great assistance experience once, but to do it repeatably, to be able to iterate quickly, you need to have your technology, your talent, and your process in place, which will lead to a great assistant experience through iteration in the same way you would do that for an in-house team working on mobile and web. So this led to the rise of in-house conversational AI teams and all of us here on this call today. Awesome. So that brings us to what does a modern team composition look like? So we see it in sort of 4 distinct categories: conversation designers, typically responsible sort of the flow, the UX of the conversation. Product owner, owns the requirements, is sort of, project managing and managing the whole life cycle of the product. The developers who are doing the implementation, often working sort of between connections to different databases, connecting different dialogue managers together, building the dialogue manager, connecting to the NLU, et cetera. And NLU designers, AI trainers, data scientists, sort of this role is still undergoing some title standardization, but for the most part, folks who are working with the raw data to ensure that you are designing your NLU in a way that it works really well with your conversation designer. So, sort of seeing that foundation of your conversation design and your NLU design, all within the scope of the product owner and being implemented by the developer. Other titles, of course, include copywriters, marketers, and legal. And often they fall within conversation design. They might fall within product owners. But these are sort of the four main categories that we see most often. And so with that, this brings us to the maturity model. And hopefully I'm on a good speed here. I'm just trying to get through as much content as possible. So these are the sort of 5 most common maturity stages we see with customers. So starting with 1, which is going to be sell teams and tech, 2, consultant implementation, 3, developer-led workflow, 4, design-led workflow, and 5, sort of the holy grail of a closed-loop data-led workflow. And we're going to go through each of these individually real quick. So first, siloed teams and technology, best characterized by having no dedicated in-house talent. So this is sort of that first stage that we talked about, where you might have 4 different teams with 4 different technology stacks, 4 different channels, 4 different vendors, 4 different completely separate teams. It's often when folks are just getting into the space, this is the sort of the first crack at it before they've looked to create a unified in-house sort of like federated model for their conversation design team. So that's kind of the best way to describe it. Now, how do they go from a level 1 maturity to a level 2 maturity? It's often through consultancies. And so if folks do not have experience in conversation design and they want to move their technology stack, they want to unify their tech stack across all their channels, they want to adopt a core NLP, NLU platform, something like a Dialogflow. They want to adopt their TTS for the first time. They want to set their conversation design practice in-house. It's super common for us to see consultancies be brought in, whether that's folks that I know Deloitte has a great conversation design practice internally. Often a lot of the NLP, NLU vendors actually have practices as well. That's quite common to see the vendor actually provide these services. But at the end of the day, it's an easy way to go from a level 1 to a level 2, which is all about centralizing your technology stack and starting to move toward that federated model. So going from a level 1 to a level 2. So once you have sort of the in-house tech, as you would call it, right? So you've got that centralized, unified tech stack. Now you want to move to actually having your in-house talent, right? So if we go back to that maturity sort of pyramid that we created that allows for iteration speed, starting with technology, then talent, then process. Now we have a developer-led workflow. And what this is you now have the in-house tech, you have the in-house talent, but for the most part, it's a ship first and test after mentality. And I'd say this is where a lot of the spaces, especially for those folks on this call. I think sometimes, we don't even realize we are sort of the tip of the spear when it comes to everyone who's attending CDI Festival. For the most part, it's going to be in that level 2, kind of level 3, some in level 4 category on the maturity model. But the vast, majority of the conversational AI industry is going to be in that level 1 or even level 0. They haven't even adopted conversational AI at all, or at least across all their business lines yet. So kudos to everyone on this call. So with developer-led, best characterization, we're going to launch it first. We're going to ship it straight to production. There might be a conversation designer. Often there isn't. And to be honest, it's mostly about shipping first, test later. And really the technology is defining the experience. It's a very common sort of a place in the maturity model for folks. But at least you have the foundation, you have the talent, and you have the technology to start iterating quickly. So 4 is when we get to conversation design led. And so what this means is not that the conversation designer is calling the shots per se, but it means that where a lot of the work is being front loaded in the workflow. So if you think about it from You look at the workflow all the way from design to, let's say launch. And of course, there's sort of post-optimization, which we'll get into. But you're doing a lot of that upfront, customer discovery, use case discovery. You're doing that on the design side. So think of it as you have your design and you have your development. Design is able to independently design and prototype different use cases. So a lot of the validation work is being done before you actually start building, right? So that's ultimately the benefit of conversation designers, is they're able to do a lot of this upfront discovery and iterate really, really quickly. Is it's often faster to change a prototype, to run a new test, to change the design than it is to go and implement an entirely new sort of custom coded bot, which is more the developer-led workflow. So designer-led, front-loading a lot of that validation discovery work is sort of the best way to think about this. And lastly is data-led. And so this is when you've completely closed the loop, right? So now you have a design, designers are front-loading a lot of the validation work. They're designing, they're prototyping. We then have a very sort of streamlined engineering process. We have a unified technology stack. We may have one dialogue manager across several channels. You may have several assistants that are all independently sharing context. But I think most importantly is, whether it's through live assistant transcripts, really robust analytics system, you have a closed loop. So the designer is not only seeing, the results of their prototype, but then they're validating against how the assistant actually performed, once it's in market, right? So, the ideal workflow we always talk about internally is conversation designer wakes up in the morning, they check out the transcripts from the previous day's assistants or previous weeks, whatever it might be. They're able to quickly identify what intents weren't performing well. What are some new opportunities that customers have brought up that we actually don't have, we don't have responses to. We're not handling these particular queries yet. And then being able to that morning identify that, spin up a quick prototype, spin up some designs, over the course of the week, share it with colleagues, do some internal user testing, and by the end of the week, being able to end-to-end ship a new solution, A/B test, and understand how did that solution perform, and then you're doing it the same way the next week, the same workflow the next week, right? So being able to completely go end-to-end on the workflow in a way that has a closed loop. Really, I think for the most part, it's a lot of common sense of sort of how we've structured this. But there aren't many teams who have that closed loop that is fully automated yet. It's still a lot of manual work in between. But there's certainly some teams that are getting closer and closer to sort of this ideal team structure and workflow, And so that is the maturity model. That's sort of how we've outlined it. There are a lot of sort of finer bullet points that I kind of glazed over. So whether it's the tooling stack in particular, it's how they're actually going about the workflow within each of these stages. More than happy to chat with folks. I just wanted to give everyone the high level as sort of how we view it today. But yeah, if you have any questions at all, there's my email. There's me on Twitter. Happy to sort of hang out, answer any questions that you guys have, and go a little bit deeper into the maturity model as well. So with that, hope that was helpful.
That was really cool. And I would recommend everybody following Braden on Twitter because he's an avid tweeter and always enjoys tweet. Every time when I get a notification, then Braden sends something, I was like, oh, I should also tweet, and then I forget about it. But yeah, so go do that, everybody. Let's see if we have any questions. I saw lots of fans in the chat earlier. Everybody's saying they're a Voiceflow user. They're a Voiceflow. We love Voiceflow. All that stuff. Yeah, and I think people are like, it's interesting like how others would describe their level of maturity in their own organization. I really like how you guys think about that, because it makes sense. It's like, oh wait, yeah, the categorization there is kind of neat. How did you? What was maybe like the breakthrough for you to come up with, those different levels and describing them this way?
Yeah, we broke it into a few different categories, and so no company cleanly fits between one category in every single way. So for us, we basically had talent and team structure, technology, workflow, and then the actual experience, as well as the tool set themselves. We had basically these categories all lined up in a rubric, and then we went through each of those categories and said, okay, what is the least mature to the most mature, and then from there you're able to bucket. Generally speaking, this company is a level 3, right? They might be a level 4 in some areas, they might be a level 1 in other areas, but generally speaking, they fall within a level 3. And you do start to see the clustering of customers' workflows along these categories as well. I think we've just spoken with enough companies now where it's really useful for our customer success team to be able to hop onto a call with someone, understand, okay, this is how you're doing this today. Okay, it's consultancy led, great, et cetera, et cetera. Here's where you want to go. Because then by understanding where a company is, you can, and understanding where they want to go, it's now a lot easier for us now that we have a very defined matrix of, okay, how can we actually help you go from a level 2 to a 3 or 3 to a 4, whatever it might be. So that's how we broke it down. And honestly, we're going to continue to improve on it over time. And we have a few other matrices that we want to build over time. So for example, what makes a good conversation design? Like, what is the 10-point bullet, the 10 bullet point list of things that, every, bot needs to have to be a level 1 maturity, level 2 maturity. So these are the types of frameworks we try to build internally just to help ourselves be able to segment through customers and help them most effectively. Oh, Braden, when do you actually sleep? Sorry, I see that question popped up from Megan. Not enough, as you can probably see I got the glasses on, so you probably can't see the bags under my eyes, but I'm trying as hard as I can these days to get some good sleep.
Well, I remember a couple of weeks ago where you said, I'm going to go to Italy, Lake Como, and I'm going to go off grid for 2 days. I was like, oh, that must have been life changing. 2 days. Braden took 2 days off, everybody.
That was a great vacation. Yeah, that's actually, it was the first PTO I'd taken in quite a while, so it was quite nice.
That is good. Yeah. Wonderful. Let's see if there are any other questions, because once we go into a break, and then afterwards we've got some community stuff, which is fun. And then Megan, are you sticking around for Megan's? Megan Hopkins is going to be on stage later on too, together with Brian Smith. So they used to work together, and now they're on a panel together. Looking forward to that one.
I'm now reading all the comments. This is very cool seeing everyone in the chat. Appreciate all the Voiceflow love. It's going to be the next couple of months. You're going to see some pretty big updates ship. Some of the biggest we've ever done. So I'm super excited.
That's cool. Yeah, and next festival, just put your money. You can do all the updates there, and we should do one live together. We've talked about that, but maybe some spot in North America, bring everybody together, and do a festival there together with Voiceflow. That'd be fun. Let's see. Just people are just sharing the love. I know you were still on Slack. You were busted, apparently. All right, everybody, we're going to do a little break, and then we'll be right back in, let's say, what is that? About 20 minutes, it seems, and then we'll be back on schedule even. That's amazing. So if you haven't done so, go check. There's an expo hall with some booths. You can sign up for stuff or just explore stuff. You can probably try out some Voiceflow and stuff like that. That looks like everybody's already using it. And other than that, we'll see everybody in 20 minutes again. Thanks, Braden. Good to see you.
Thanks, everyone. Hans, Olaf, thanks for having me.